I don't know. The lone gunman just grows into different things. That's all. I think I enjoy telling different stories and being involved with. There are some stories you can't portray as a actor going through life, but you can portray. You can direct films and tell stories about other people. You can tell about the lone woman trying to find her son, and the drama of that, and the complications of a story like that. Sometimes fictional stories are great fun, and sometimes true stories are great fun. And this story was not a fun story. I mean, it's a very tough story in a lot of ways, but it is a true story, and it happened. And I think it shows the perseverance of a woman in that particular time in history when women didn't have that much right, or they weren't given the confidence to really go out and defend themselves. All of that. The mother fighting for her child. Here's a woman that was, in those days, had a job as a supervisor in the phone company, and probably a pretty good job for a woman in those days. Probably most supervisors were men, and she had everything. She was trying to make her career, advance her career, and then her son goes missing, and then it changes her whole life. She has to take time off, and the police department, instead of coming to her, expending a lot of effort on her behalf, they just dismiss it as some sort of hallucination or something like that. And then when they find this, they get a kid who says he's the kid. They say, well, that's it. We'll make it work. And so there's no DNA or fingerprinting or anything like that in those days. It was just his word, and they actually talked her into the real irony, and there's quite a few ironies in this story, but the real irony is they talked her into taking the kid home on a trial basis, and then she would soon realize that it was her son. And I guess she was so desperate to have her son back that she said sure she would do that, and she did that, and she realized it wasn't her son, and as she knew all along. And then they, threw her in the psychiatric wards and did all kinds of crazy things to her that without any defense of the law on her side. Yeah, it's amazing. In fact, it's always a good reminder, I suppose, historically, that these things can happen. That no matter what time in history, there's always the element of corruption nudging against the goodness of society, and one can always one has to always be diligent and aware that necessarily and it's not necessarily enough is being done to really solve the case or to really service the people of the society. And in her case, nobody was there. I mean, she had this Presbyterian minister, Gustav Briglov, who had this obsession about corruption in the police department, and used to have his radio show. He used to talk about it all the time, and he heard of her case and then came to her and assisted her in getting over the hurdle of being the reticent female, and became very aggressive. And if she didn't go after the police department, that she wasn't going to be very happy in the long run. I don't know it too well at all, because I've never had that experience, but I just wanted to tell it because I just thought it was an important story to tell. I don't think you have to live through sequences to tell a good story. I think your imagination can do the rest. It's not hard to sympathize with this woman and her plight, and it's not as it isn't hard to sympathize with any victim of crime. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't sympathize enough with the victims of crime, and that takes us off the track. But sometimes society can get complacent, and they say, "Oh well, what the heck? It's not affecting me or my family, so they don't think words of it." You know, sometimes there's not enough outrage in the world. Well, it wasn't that hard, but it did take some doing, because we had to find some neighborhoods that were homes that were built in the 20s, and some of those neighborhoods were in just moderate condition. So what we did is offered people to use for using their neighborhood if we could fix up their houses or paint their houses and repair certain things, and so we were a benefit to the neighborhood. But at the same token, we didn't want people to leave their cars on the street, because we had to put antique vehicles on the street. So we put those. We did that, and it was very, very nice, and the neighborhood loved having us there. And then there's getting Los Angeles as it was then. There's a lot of big buildings there now, and at that particular time there was a city hall building, and the rest of the buildings were rather small by today's standards. And but I remember when I first came to Los Angeles down in the 50s, and I went to college in Los Angeles. There was very few tall buildings. Los Angeles was much like it was in the 20s. So I remember how the streetcars were, and the red streetcars, and they all had the wires. Everything's all different, so we had to replace all that and do it, some of it visually and some of it with normal effects. And it's a little bit of a job you have to do, mind the details on it.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.